Hey, Dennis.
Hey, Fessel. The world's a
So,
crazy place right now, isn't it?
that's an understatement, man. I mean, I don't want to sound profane, right, in the start. But you know what? Things are really fucked up, man.
Yeah.
And I just cannot understand what's going on. I'm really, really, utterly confused. I'm going to start with this, you know, sad background, which I think is apt. Is, we've been messing around with each other. First we were messing with the earth too much, so the earth fought back and gave us this bloody COVID. So here, take this, guys. Then we have to understand that we have been killing each other in the name of faith, religion, belief, resource, colonization, resources, territory. Call it whatever you want to. But you know what? We've been having this infighting for too long. Brother against brother, as you were saying earlier, you were quoting the
Yeah.
Bible and the Quran. Brother against brother for too long. We have created these differences: Chinese, Arab, American, Muslim, Jew, Christian. But what's really disturbing me today, Dennis, and I would like you to comment on that, is that I had really hoped in the past 3 months that given what Earth has thrown at us, given what the universe has thrown at us, we would have got our senses right. What is wrong with mankind? And I'm not talking about any specific country, we'll come to the US in a second. Generally, what is wrong with mankind that in the face of such a calamity, if we just take Spanish flu killed 50 million people, this thing could really, we think it's done. No, it's not done. This thing can still go ballistic. And yet in the face of that, we are busy hurting each other again. What is wrong with us? This is such a remake of the Spanish flu. On one side, Spanish flu was killing humanity, and at the same time, World War I, we were killing each other. Spanish flu and the World War I death count is pretty much at par. Dennis, what's going on, man?
Man, I don't know, Fessel. I really don't know. It's a very confusing time, and I think for as a level of transparency, what I would like people to know is that I came in. I mean, so FQ and I were talking about whether or not to do the broadcast because we're both like very heavy hearted today, and I'm feeling the weight of it, and listen, I'm just going to come out and say, I mean, maybe it's maybe turnabout's fair play, but having this happen in my own country, I've always been insulated to a lot of this because I was able to see it on the news. FQ, I don't know that humanity is really different or that it has changed and I'm talking about human beings. I think what's changed, and I'm going to quote Will Smith, one of the quotes he's recently come out with, is that racism isn't increased, we're just filming it. And I think that's really profound during these times, is that I think humanity has always treated one another this way. I think right now it's just that we're living in a day and an age where it's like right in our face, and it's really it's disturbing to see how we treat each other instead of understanding and looking at, hey, we've got politicians doing their thing. We've got other factors down here at the bottom that are trying to influence. In my mind, the only revolution that needs to happen is it's time for the people in the middle to rise up. Enough's enough with the politicians getting everything all messed up. It's time for these extremist groups to be put to bed, and it's time for those of us, the 80% of us in the middle, to rise up and be adults.
I would go as far as saying, racism it's not that it has increased. I think it has decreased. We have historically always been racist. Now, a race is not racist. Racism should not just be limited to Caucasian versus, Hispanic versus. And forgive me for saying, I'm in Pakistan. I'm not going to be blacks, Hispanics, Italians, Irish,
Right.
Muslims, non-Muslims. Religion is also a race, right? It's not just DNA. So
Sure.
we have found any reason we could have found, whether it was the Egyptians or the Romans or the Jews or the Christians, historically, as far back as you can go, we have looked so hard to find a difference between you and me and create a reason to cut each other's throat. And then you know what? We give it the name and the guise of faith or race or belief or religion or territory. It's none of that. I'm sorry, we are a hateful, very hateful creation. We deep down have some screwed up hatred for each other. What's wrong?
As far as the hatred, I think that I really don't know. And again, I think it's because we're allowing ourselves to be influenced. We're allowing ourselves to be influenced in some way, shape, or form. Instead of, I think in a lot of this, FQ, we have not been taught, nor have many people looked at ways to improve or increase skills like critical thinking. Like I mean, that's really, I think, what is going to be able to get us out of this mess is not cooler heads prevailing, but critical thinking. Because you're always going to have a side that says, no, well, we've talked. That's what's happening here right now, is you have a side of this that's saying, hey, you know what, like, we've enough talk. We've talked for 50 years. We've been talking ever since Dr. King marched and so forth. I think that humans, we always find reasons to hate each other, and I think what we really have to look at, I'm just going to come out and say, is follow the money. I mean, this is what it always seems to end up coming down to. Belief systems change based upon current events, regardless of whether people say that they do or not. So we change, when the context change, we change our belief systems. And what I see is that as humans, we always try to find a way to justify our position, defend our position, and explain away our bullshit.
I agree. And here's an interesting comment I want to take right now. The greatest invention that can possibly make us start thinking before doing anything, since you talk about critical thinking, is the camera built into our cell phone. Cell phone cameras bring the horror of your life into my life by 27 years. Not just news channels, Irfan. It's a good point. I've been saying this for years. The first most amazing invention or intervention, was probably the mobile camera, the cell phone camera. Mm-hmm. The second most critical intervention was the camera getting connected to the internet in real time. The disaster that you're seeing today in the US, now let's start moving towards US, but that's really out of control. The first time it really went ballistic was when that lady did a live stream while her boyfriend was dying in the car, shot by the cops, right? Dennis, I don't remember the name of that woman. Do you remember who I'm talking about? There was a young child in the car.
I don't. There's been so many of these things. I don't really know. And all I'm going to say to that, FQ, is that we have a tendency, in communication, period, and I'm not trying to get off on some kind of communication topic. It's just that what we're talking about is when we take and make sweeping generalizations, that not everything is connected. Not everything is connected like we try to make it. That's our inability to, again, critical think. So it really comes down to when we make these sweeping generalizations. Listen, I mean, and I said this on my broadcast Friday night when that was called "Why We Love to Hate," and it's simply a matter of I worked alongside police officers for 25 years of my life. There were some that were assholes. But the majority of them, they were just regular people that got up and went to work every day.
Police officer sparking outrage.
Sorry, that audio shouldn't have come in. That audio came in. Did you hear that? I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was going to start playing the audio there.
Hey, that's all right. I'm glad we found a new feature.
No, we didn't. What's going to happen is I hope YouTube or somebody doesn't give me a bloody strike on that one.
Well, it was very quick, so I don't know that anything was really a big deal. What I was saying is, we make these sweeping generalizations that like, all police officers are bad. That's not true. I just posted something today on my page about a sheriff there in Michigan who was actually used his influence, used his position, used his words to diffuse a situation, and it said, I don't want to protest, let's take and make this into a parade. And they embraced him. I mean, my concern with all this is that we're saying, hey, you know what, no more social distancing. The good side, here's some poisonous positivity for you. Well, the good side of this is now more people are wearing masks. The challenge is, or the downside is that the people wearing masks are now doing it to commit crimes. So I don't know. I'm very confused. I'm very confused by this whole situation.
Okay, So, see, here's the thing. Okay, now first of all, that's the case, which I'm talking about, 2016. This happened while the cop stood there by the window, pointing a gun at the man, and there's a baby in the car, and she's there, and she started live streaming.
Okay.
Now, I have done these live streams many times. The power of that is it cannot be undone. Now, if you record something on a telephone camera and somebody snatches the camera, it's overdone.
Yeah.
But if you start, and I've really told a lot of people who want to do citizen journalism, or idiots like me who get vigilante-ish on the roads, I always say, go live, man. Just go live. Once you go live, you're untouchable. Because even if somebody's going to take you down, the world's seen it. It
Sure.
cannot be hidden or changed. So this was happening while the cop stood there with a gun pointing inside the car, and she was live streaming it. And that just went berserk, and this whole thing has been catching up after that.
Sure.
So what's going on right now is when you said these people now wearing masks but they're committing crimes.
Yeah.
I think in their books now, U.S. has seen those riots before.
Sure.
U.S. has seen that looting before. Even England, remember the looting in London?
Sure.
That happened. So. Yes, these people go looting, but if you actually had a conversation with them, they would justify it by saying, well, the society has not given us anything, and it is our right to take it. Now, I'm going to do a slight parallel in Pakistan,
Okay.
where the government is saying, we can't lock down because the poor people will not be able to survive because of bad economy, which I personally feel is ridiculous. But the thing is, if you talk to the people in general masses, they would say, oh, you're a rich boy, so what do you know what we're going through? And I'm like, listen, would you rather be on a ventilator and hurt and God forbid die because of this? They say, you know what, it's okay. Because you know what, we're broke, we don't have so the government has put that seed in their head and incited them to actually come out and get on with their business. Now, Donald Trump did exactly the same thing. He kept saying, economy, people are dying to get back to work, we need to reopen. And he did that same incitement and brought people out. Now, these people, when they've been time and again told, you are being oppressed. And also, sorry, I'm taking a moment here, a lot of politicians, especially in the underdeveloped world, use this poverty game as the electioneering. Oh, people are so oppressed. The rich have taken your rights. I will snatch from the rich and give to you. Nawaz Sharif did that. Benazir Bhutto did it. Bhutto destroyed the country on this slogan. And Imran Khan did it. The rich have stolen. I am going to give the money. No one has ever said and come out and said, work hard and make your living or money. Nobody does that. Trump made the same mistake in the past year or so, and especially in the past 3 months. And now we have a situation where these rioters and looters are not necessarily, they don't really think they're committing a crime, do they?
I don't know. I don't know whether they think that they're committing a crime or not. It seems like that they don't think that. I certainly don't. I don't understand. In all my training, I was not ever trained in criminal psychology. We were taught in normal psychology that crimes are crimes. And so people make bad decisions, and then, there's things that lead to these bad decisions, lifestyle choices, upbringing, and so forth. I'm just going to say what I'm having a very difficult time reconciling, and I understand enough's enough. But I am not understanding how taking out a private business. We just literally were talking about we want to get the economy running again. We want to open the country, and now we're literally shutting it down. I guess the crazy thing, and I say this all the time, human beings are absolutely ridiculous creatures, and I mean this by this is a perfect example. Like within the last 2 weeks, we saw here in the United States, we saw open up, open up, open up. You're stomping my freedoms. You're stomping on my freedoms. And now we're hearing close it down, impose curfews. That's not fair. So I guess what it comes down to is because the virus is invisible, that was unconstitutional. But now we're going to say, oh, wait a minute, you can only protest between these hours and these hours? Where's the constitutionality of that? So it's like we either need to get aligned with as the middle. Like, enough is enough. You know, if you're going to say, hey, it's unconstitutional to lock me down, it's unconstitutional to lock me down because of an invisible virus that's just nothing but political and a hoax and everything else, but now you're going to lock me down from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. because you know, a certain segment of the people can't behave themselves, regardless of the reason. I didn't have anything to do with this. Most people in my world had nothing to do with any of this, and yet their businesses are getting smashed. Their businesses are getting smashed. I have a client that they're cleaning up from looting last night. That was how I started my day. Again, to my heaviness of, like, what are we doing? We literally vote against our own interests. We're killing each other as brothers. We're turning on each other. Who's to gain from all of this? Who's to gain? I mean, I've heard this put into terms of right versus wrong, good versus evil, and how do we win? Nobody is winning in this situation. Nobody's winning. We're all being locked down again, and we're under curfews. I could be misspeaking here. I tried looking this up last night. You know, I just celebrated my 49th birthday, and I can tell you, Faisal, I cannot recall a time in my lifetime. I am not saying it hasn't happened, but I can't recall a time in my lifetime that my state has been under a curfew. So this is troubling. This is troubling to people like me that literally try to get up every day and go to work, make a living, take care of my family, do good for the community, and mind my own business. So this is what I'm talking about. It's time for those of us in the middle to rise up. Enough's enough.
You know, absolutely. And I'm going to throw in the fact that, you know, we also have warped rationalities. Just a few months ago, the same people who were condemning China for being oppressive in Hong Kong are now urging their own people in America that, you know, it is not their right to do this and the governments need to kick in. What was that line Trump said? When the looting will start, the shooting will start?
Yeah, but again, he stole that from somebody else, just like everything else.
Sure. Yeah, but he said that. The thing is, another thing that's happening today is at a very high speed because the internet and everything, you know, chickens are really coming home to roost. All the crap that we have sent out into the universe is now being thrown back at us 10 times bigger, stronger, and worse. And now we're feeling the brunt of all the crap we've produced, just like we've been throwing plastic into the oceans, and now that shit is like, the ocean is spewing it back at us. Right. For all this time, we've been creating biological warfare and all kinds of shit. I'm not saying someone's doing that. Whichever country says, I don't care. But we have been actively working on that shit. We've been so busy building nuclear arsenals. We've been so busy spending gazillions of dollars into the war machine, and here comes Earth and says, screw you, I'm just going to take you down with one little virus.
Yeah.
And yet, here we are, tonight, today, as we speak, brother against brother, poor against rich, need against, excessiveness.
Yeah.
We are really not understanding in history, in the past few centuries or millennia. This has happened before the Black Death, and I know I'm jumbling everything together, but the thing is, everything is happening together, and it's really just a remake of history. And I keep going to Spanish flu because it's so ominous. Spanish flu killing, World War I killing. Don't tell people about the Spanish flu or they will not fight the war. Can you believe that? That the governments actually suppressed information on the Spanish flu so the morale of the soldiers does not go down.
Right.
They kept pushing them into the fight. For what? Spanish flu killed 50 million people, morons. What are you fighting over? And today, again, instead of the world coming together and fighting this pandemic, what the hell are these governments doing? Is this really the time for this division? Is this really the time to create and unleash this chaos onto people? What economy, man? Like somebody said repeatedly, this is the fucking year to stay alive.
Yeah. I don't know. I think part of what we're experiencing as well is, and again, I'll just speak to here, but I think it's happening everywhere, which is that people have become so. I mean, I remember, just a few years ago walking down the street, and you could say, "Hey" to somebody, give a wave, or even just mind your own business, and you wouldn't get messed with or bothered. I mean, even this morning, funny story. I needed to rent a truck this weekend, and I got the truck back to the place on time, but they had locked their gates, so my vehicle basically got locked in for the weekend. Nothing I could do. So my wife April drives me over. Dude, that's throwing me. So April drove me over to the car place this morning, and I get in my car. Now, and I'm going to tell you, I was wearing a mask. I was wearing a full mask that comes all the way down to here. I wear it. That's what I typically wear when I'm out. I'm pulling out of the drive. And this goes to my point of we don't know what's going on. So I'm pulling out, and my window was down, and I hear somebody going, "Oh, look at that idiot wearing a mask in his car." I mean, you want to know why I was wearing a mask driving alone in my own car? Because I was having a really bad beard day. I couldn't get it controlled. So what I do sometimes, I actually wear, those masks aren't always for infection control. It was I put product in my beard, I put the mask on, and now it's nicely shaved. See, look how good looking I am. My point is, this idiot decided, oh, I need to speak my mind. Like, your free speech has nothing to do with me. Your free speech and your right to say whatever you want has nothing to do with me.
See, exactly what I was going to say. That people think it's their business to control everybody else. And I'm sorry, I'm really all over the place tonight. I'm just pulling shit from everything in my memory, just throwing it in one jumble. You know what? France banning the hijab. Scandinavian countries saying you can't cover your face.
There you go.
The whole bloody hijab argument, the beard argument, how you should dress in our society, in our culture. Me condemning you, you condemning me. And now it has transformed into why are you wearing a mask? Because I bloody feel like it. That's why I'm wearing a mask.
It's the same reason I'm wearing a hat. I mean, my hat doesn't mean anything. It means that I need a freaking haircut. That's what it means.
No, my point is you don't need to explain why. It's your head. It's your hat. It's none of anybody's bloody business. So people have been interfering into each other's business for too long.
Yes.
It was either religion, faith, race, class, criticism, whatever the fuck it was. And now it's come down to, why do you want to stay alive? You know what? The Japanese have been wearing masks forever. They're known for wearing masks because if they have the slightest flu, if they have the slightest sore throat or bad throat, they wear a mask because they don't want to hurt anybody. You know what? And you know what? God knows what your circumstances were when you're wearing a mask. How the hell somebody who's just driving by you, he doesn't know diddly do about you. But you know what?
Right.
Yes, you're right. People think it's their fucking business to get into everybody else's fucking business.
That's exactly it. And that is part of what is perpetuating a lot of this animosity and chaos is that is not so much that everybody is participating in it. An interesting story is I saw somebody on social media. I saw them yesterday. This is somebody I'm connected with, and they put something out there about like all of these looters, and they basically referred to them as rapists, and all their whole agenda is to go about raping white women. And I'm like, what? Where did this even come from? Like, this is just, we have such a chronic case, and I'm going to diagnose it. We have a case of something that, and if this isn't in the psychology books yet, we have a really bad case of this disorder, and it's called MSU. Make shit up. Like, enough. We're making shit up all the time, and it does nothing at all. And now the person's like, well, that's not what I meant to say. So now you put yourself in a situation where you have to explain it away. If all you'd have done is shut your mouth in the first place. I understand, like, this country, we have we have freedom of speech. But my question is does everything need to be said? Does it all need to be said? What value does that add?
Yeah, but in this particular example, I have another problem. How could somebody actually think like that?
Dude,
Do they actually? There's one thing.
Because we're
There's one thing that they
influenced,
said it. There's one thing that they said it, but I don't think they actually fucking think that way.
Listen, I mean, I don't. But now what they're saying is that's not what I meant. So I didn't mean that. So my point is, don't put it out there. I mean, I don't know who came up with the saying, but it's better to keep your mouth shut than to prove everybody that you are truly a fool, right? And we don't seem to understand that. I've said this before on a broadcast: is yes, we do have a First Amendment right and a freedom of speech, but we also have a Fifth Amendment right in this country to shut the fuck up and not incriminate yourself. We also have something called a Miranda right, which means you have the right to remain silent. Exercise that. It's just not helpful. It is not helpful at all. It lends itself to the heaviness that's going on. And it just, if you're not going to get out there and be involved in it, don't sit there and take pot shots at people on the internet and then expect to get away with it.
So here, I'm sorry, I'm really aggressive to that. Now here's a dipshit I want to point out. The first is dipshit with a fake fucking account, with a fake fucking picture, comes and tells me, why are you swearing so much? Because my fucking business. And you know what? And then comes out and says, it's a useless discussion. Did anybody put a gun to your head to come and watch it? Piss off. Who gives a shit about you, man? Go away. Yes, I will, and here I am. We are pissed off right here.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your opinion on gun control? Let's talk about it, man.
Gun
Complete
control?
different perspective because we are, between Dennis and me, we're in two different worlds, different perspectives.
Yeah.
Dennis, you go first. Dennis, you up to taking a few live participants if they want to? I'm going to share it here if anybody wants to come in, say their piece.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm totally fine with that. As far as gun
I
control,
put
listen.
I'm sorry. Hey, hang on. I put the stream thing on. It doesn't go everywhere. You need to be either watching it on my YouTube or our Facebook pages. That Dennis's Facebook page or my Facebook page or my YouTube. That's the only place you will get the link to join in live if you want to do it. And Dennis, I'm so sorry. Before we go to gun control, we lose thought. There was a comment here which I want you to use. World needs to reboot and go to the basic norms of life. Health, family, humanity should be the priority of all countries, irrespective of how rich or poor they are. Well, Dennis, please talk about the show you do, man. Back to basics.
Yeah, that's exactly, Umar, thank you so much for saying that. That's exactly what Back to the Basics is about. It's about taking, some of these current events. It's about taking just a lot of the noise out there and breaking it down and how we take and apply it to our lives. And so, and part of this, a lot of this movement for me, this Back to the Basics movement, it really literally started, I'm a big fan. I've said this for a long time. I'm a big fan of Tupac Shakur. And in his song Changes, he specifically says we need to change the way we eat, we need to change the way we live, and we need to change the way we treat each other. I could not, see now I'm throwing my pens. I couldn't even agree with that any more than that statement. And so I feel very blessed that he even put that out there. And, this has nothing to do with socioeconomic status. It has nothing to do with anything other than treating each other as brothers. I mean, I understand that families fight, but if you look at the major religious books in any religion, they all talk about the way that we treat one another. They all do. I mean, you mentioned I can't find the verses right now, but there's
which one?
So I believe it was Quran 3:103.
3:103, man.
Yeah, and then there's also Matthew, I have it over here. Good. Matthew 23:36. That's it, 22:39. And it's talking about that our first commandment, and I'll speak to the Bible, I'll let you take on the Quran part, but it specifically says that we are to take and love the Lord with all of our heart. However, we're also supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves, meaning it's not one or the other. So all of the major religions, this country that I live in is claiming it's a Christian country, and this is what we're doing. We're tearing each other apart, and it literally just doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. Let's take action. Again, rise up middle. We're the ones being affected by this. The middle, we're the ones that get up and get off of our ass every day and keep the economy running. We're the ones that own small businesses. We're the ones that are making continuing the world. You know, and so and to keep it moving forward and to continue to allow ourselves to be influenced by, you know, stop complaining about the media. Turn that shit off. Stop complaining about politicians. Vote them out. Instead of getting caught up in the rhetoric and the bullshit, which is what seems to be happening. So, you know, again, enough is enough. And I'm speaking to me and I'm speaking to my countrymen, is that until we get back to treating everybody or till we start treating everybody with kindness and decency, like, you know what? The enemy are those that are trying to influence us. That's the real enemy.
You know what, dude?
And there's my rant.
You know what my real dilemma while you were speaking, and I was like, you know, you talk about the middle needs to rise. I think the middle is so freaking small. It is scary. I still think majority people are okay with this chaos. They're actually rooting for more chaos. When we talk about the middle is really just the middle finger size. Everything else is screwed up, man.
Yeah, I just don't agree. I think that there's 10% on each side. I think there's 80% of us in the middle. I don't know. I do, man. I do.
Then how can this 20%, 10 on the right and 10 on the left, can overpower the 80%? Maybe that's because the silent comatose fucking majority has made itself worthless.
Well, that's what we
don't
want to hearing.
We don't want to stand up and be counted.
We're not hearing from the silent majority. We're hearing from the vocal minority on each of these sides, and each one is blaming the other. At some point, like, you know, again, it's like, when do we take and say, like, it's time for us to take and move things forward, move the situation, move the country, move the way that we treat each other forward, instead of like, what? I've been doing this. I've been going around. I don't understand why I don't see more of this, of like, hey, when I'm in a store, hey, thank you for wearing a mask. I appreciate you. You know, one of the things that we could do is just give a kind of, you know, prayer hands to somebody. Give the peace sign. Do something other than constantly walking around thinking everybody's trying to fuck us over in some way, shape, or form, because it's not true. That's a perception that we have been programmed to think. So at some point, it's like, you know what? Again, I keep saying enough's enough, but I don't have anything else to say. Like, we just keep taking and voting against our own interests. I'll use this as an example. You know, when I was a union president, you know, I really believed in what we did, and we supported political entities. We supported politicians and so forth. These were people these politicians were vetted to make sure that they voted and they supported fire department, public safety people. And so with that, every election, what we had is, well, you're not going to tell me how to vote. They would vote against the candidates. They joined an organization. They paid money to support certain candidates, and then they voted against them. This happened every election cycle. Sheeple,
okay.
yeah, that's an interesting.
Okay.
I don't know who's the sheep here.
I'm going to mix the two comments here. Now, Ahmad says middle everywhere busy trying to pay bills and increasing them every month so that they have. I agree with you. But that does not mean, you know, it's like saying, oh, you know what, they are trying to bugger us. And it doesn't mean you bend over. Yeah? Fine, yes, they're trying to bugger you, but you don't have to bend over and facilitate. I understand they're doing that, but we need to, you know what, the world was 2 billion and there were more revolutions. Today, we are 6, 7, whatever billion, and we just become so dormantly useless. We let, 15 monkeys in the whole world ruin us? Are we nuts?
Right.
How many monkeys are there? How many tyrannical monkeys are out there today? 15, 20 tops?
I'm going to come out.
7 billion freaking people, man?
Faisal, I'm going to answer. I think I have an answer to your question. I don't have an answer, but at least a comment on your question of what's the middle doing. I don't know that the middle knows what to do. I don't know that the middle knows what to do. I mean, I'll just tell you, I see things coming across my news feeds. I don't, it's hard to know what to believe. It's hard to know where to go to a source to get credible information. I agree with this. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. More compassion. Absolutely. Understanding that, like, I mean, I see all these psychologists and stuff coming out, and I totally disagree with my own profession on this, which is that stop talking about empathy. Compassion. I don't have to understand where you came it from. I don't know. Ahmad, my brother, we're more on the same page than you think, my friend.
Okay, you see now.
And I was going to say, how do you know I haven't?
Yeah. Okay, let's go to fucking gun control, man. Let's talk about gun control. Dennis,
so I don't know that
man,
it's a crazy topic. I mean, I don't really know. In this country, I understand. I think we should be more fearful of our government than probably what we are. I think that's coming up right now. I just heard a comment the other day that the reason we're allowed to carry guns is to protect ourselves from looters. That's not the reason we have them in this country. That's not my understanding. Gun control. Listen, my thing is, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to go against my sons right now because we don't see eye to eye on this issue, which they believe like give me guns, and I can get whatever I want. My right. I just think it's the same as driving. There's reasons we band-aided seatbelts. There's reasons like a long time ago we put that nadir pin in the door. We do all of this, and we put some regulations in place for the general overall good. And so I think sometimes what happens is we have to understand that for the benefit of the good, that it's not about giving something up. It's about that it's better for everyone. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer this. I'm coming from a country that like this is this is a really hot topic issue. And I can tell you, my wife April and I were just speaking about it this weekend. It's funny, when you have a birthday, you kind of get a little introspective. I do anyway. But especially as I'm now 49 years old. I'm 49 years old, and I think the interesting thing is, since I can remember, I have heard about gun rights. I've heard about the war on drugs. I've heard about the need for oil and capitalism. I've heard all of these same issues over and over, and I haven't seen that there's been any progress other than we just keep sitting around and bullshitting about it and pissing each other off and getting divisive over it. Guns, I will say this, guns don't kill people, people kill people. However, when you have access, that makes it an easier option. So I think, I don't know that I have the answers to this. What I'm going to say is, I live in the United States. Until all this rioting and stuff, until the last 3 years, I actually thought we were a very intelligent country that could come together. And we have smart people here. I don't have an answer for that, FQ. I do think that there are enough people that are smart enough to come up with some answers that would help everybody.
In your where you are, right to bear guns is, I think, futile or useless because you have a very good law enforcement system. You regardless of what's happening with the cops,
sure.
right?
Absolutely
but you still have
agree.
a system.
Sure.
You know what? Where I live. Now, this I'm sorry I wasn't prepared for this. I'm not ready. So just 2 nights ago, I had 6 people, armed people in my home. This is from my CCTV. Okay. Okay, you just watch this. Just watch this. So he would actually blatantly climb up. And boom goes my camera. Yeah. Now, the scary thing is, This was happening where I'm sitting right now. I was sitting 10 feet away from this. This window where these guys are doing this was exactly 7 feet behind me. My lights were on, my TV was on, full volume, and I have a very loud sound system. You can hear it big time, all right? There's 6 armed men all over my compound trying to find a way to get into my house. Luckily they didn't, so in the end they tried to overpower my security people, and in the scuffle they managed to sort of chase these guys out. But you know what do you want me to do? While this is happening in my house, 6 feet behind me where I sit, in my window, what do you want me to do? Wait for the police to come, which would arrive in about 45 minutes? It's not going to happen. So you know what? I believe that until you can take the guns away from the bad guys, the good guys have a right to protect themselves. Before you disarm the good guys, you have to disarm the bad guys. In America, it's different. You can just go show a driver's license, buy a gun. Over here, there's a huge, very tight licensing system where very few people can get permits to buy guns. And if you're going to disarm them, that's ridiculous. I mean, go and disarm the bad people or create a law enforcement system which is good enough, which gives me protection. And then I'm willing to not, somebody's already talking about it, that after that I'll surrender my weapon, sure. And I do not carry a weapon in the supermarket, but yes, I do have a sidearm, which I have access to most of the time.
I'll just say
but
this.
Come on, given what I do, what would you expect? I mean, I do crazy shit, man.
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say whether I own firearms or not. I'm going to say break into my house and find out. There you go.
If I did that here, mate, if his whole clan will come after me because they're like mobs and gangs and mafias.
Hey, I get it, man.
I can't even take the fucker down.
I don't know that. I think it's a very complex issue. I agree with both sides, actually. And so I think at least here in the United States, I think both sides have some very valid arguments. I don't know. I don't know that. Listen, I mean, I don't typically hear of like school shootings, and let's go to that. I mean, because what we have right now is absolute chaos. But when there's innocent children and somebody just goes into a school and decides like they're just going to shoot that up, I don't see that happening with a Glock. I don't see it happening with a handgun or a revolver. These are weapons that discharge like multiple rounds. So
okay, I have a question. I have a real question, man. The right to bear arms, I stand with. But a gun to protect yourself, I endorse and promote. Please own a weapon for self-protection. What the fuck are you doing with an automatic rifle that spits out fucking 30 bullets in what the fuck is that about?
Listen, man, I have actually heard, I have heard this argument. I am related to a couple people that actually will make the argument. They actually, they say words like, well, it's our God-given right. Okay, I can't read anywhere in the Quran, I can't read anywhere in the Torah, I can't read anywhere in the Bible that talks about guns at all. So, but I have actually heard the nonsense argument that it's a crime that children are born into this country without guns, like waiting for them as soon as they come out of the womb. Like, I don't know, man. I've heard the hunting argument. I've heard because it's my right. But then again, I don't see people going and buying fighter planes or tanks.
What the fuck are you hunting with an M16? What the fuck are you hunting with an M16?
Well, when I had an M16, I was hunting people.
Right.
I was in the military.
There you go. That's fine. Why would a civilian own? I don't even know what I know nothing about.
I don't know. The only answer to that in the United States is because I can. That's really the best answer I've ever heard. Is because I can. It's my right. And so, listen, I know plenty. I do, and I want to make this known. I know plenty I know plenty of very responsible gun owners. I'm going to talk about this from my perspective for just a moment. And my perspective on this is simply that where guns are concerned, until you've had to. And I mean, these were well-intentioned gun owners and stuff, but like everything else, there's a chance of getting complacent. And I have actually been the one. I have been the one to try to resuscitate children. I have been the one to pronounce children dead. I have been the one to go inside of homes and actually send cleanup crews in after a young child has gotten a hold of a gun. So I'm just going to say, like, I'm not saying kids don't get into car accidents or anything else. We all have to transport ourselves and so forth. But being one of the ones to actually get a child's warm blood on me because of this, like, I have a difficult time understanding. Several of the, and it's not that people don't find ways to kill themselves, multiple suicides of teenagers that used a gun. They're not even entitled to have them or own them. So again, everybody that I happen to know, that was in my professional world, everybody in my world, they keep their guns nice and safe. They keep them, but accidents happen. And I'm not saying that we need to take and regulate accidents. But I just think we need to kind of give some common sense to this situation as opposed to and some critical thinking as opposed to just sticking by, times have changed. Why it's time to accept that times have changed, and this whole trying to get the United States back to the 1950s, it was an utter bullshit premise in the first place. I don't want to live in a country that wants to go back to the 50s. If I'm going to do that, then I'm going to move to some place like Cuba where they still have cool fucking American cars.
So I put that video, it's a better version now. So this guy is actually looking into my window right now. He's standing in front of my window looking in while I'm in there. And unfortunately, I don't notice. Anyways, so let's get this comment. Every Israeli is military trained and carries a gun, but they're mentally trained like anger management. You know what? Why talk about Israel? Why not about Singapore? It's mandatory. If you are a PR holder in Singapore and if your child does not go to mandatory military training, they take your PR away. So you know what? I know what he's trying to spark. It's not just Israel or Palestine. They're countries. Military training, nothing wrong with it. I believe in military training. It creates a country as disciplined as Singapore. And yes, anger management, they're not carrying weapons. Yes, the country's military trained. There was a time in Pakistan, I think there still is, I don't know, where every student had to go for fundamental basic military training. But that was very, very basic. Familiarization, right? Singapore, everyone. Do you know Singapore, you can't, they have their own gun. You can't buy any of the gun. It's a Singaporean gun, and it is not a 9mm or no. It has a unique bullet which works only in that gun, and that bullet is supplied by the government, owns by the government. Every Singaporean owns a weapon which is with the government.
Interesting. I didn't know.
So everybody has to go to, and the government pays for it. You go, you become a soldier, you will be given a weapon which the government. But in case of war, the gun comes out. But it's a war that will never happen really, right? So
hey, I'm just going to say to that comment, all I know is I can't speak much to Israel other than I know that they have a compulsory military service. A few people that did their time there, they actually were professors of mine at university, and so I learned a tremendous amount. And what I really learned is I'm not worried about their guns. I'm more worried about their understanding and knowledge of Krav Maga. That stuff can fuck somebody up real quick. So,
please explain.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar.
All the Israeli military people are trained in Krav Maga. What's that?
What is that?
It's a defense form. It's all hand fighting. They teach you how to disarm. How to fight with knives. It is. Think of I don't know. It's a whole bunch of martial arts disciplines rolled into one. They're badasses. I wouldn't mess with them at all. I wouldn't mess with them.
I didn't know
because
that.
It is all to disarm and kill, disarm, kill. so that you stay alive. It's they're all trained in it when they, and some of course more than others, but it's part of the military training.
But they're the military. What's wrong with that?
Listen,
Good for them.
Right, but everybody there ends up going through the military. Over here in the United States, we have less than 1%. Less than 1% of our population actually joins or participates in military service. So I don't. My thing is, if people want to have a gun, I don't have a problem with it. I would like to see some training. I would like to see some training involved in that. To where people, it's not going to take care of people getting angry, people losing their emotions, that sort of a thing. That's human behavior. But when you're more trained, it just makes us a little bit safer. It makes us, a little bit. I don't know. I think it lends itself to where if everybody's trained in it, nobody's trying to use it as a power over another person.
Yeah, fine. As long as it's being used in a constructive way, it's fine. But I'm for military training. I am for militarization of the whole nation, because I think that the psychopathy going on outside in your streets would be reduced tremendously if everyone had gone through the bashing and the turbulence of military training. I mean, come on, Dennis. Okay, let's talk about you. Let's talk about you, man. You, given your childhood, given your youth, if you had not gone into the military, would you be a much worse person?
Well, I don't know that it'd be worse. I never wanted to do the things I was doing in the first place. So it was, I don't know that I'd be a worse person or a better person. I think what it did is it gave me perspective. It gave me perspective in that, I had to, I mean, you and I just had this conversation because it was the United States' Memorial Day, and I had to question, since I've become more of a global citizen, since I have, started really interacting with people around the world, it's, people are people, FQ, and I think we tend to forget that because we want to take what we're told from our own perspective. I don't know. I know just as many Christians that I don't want to be around, and there's just as many Muslims that I don't want to be around. It's people are people regardless of the belief system, and the belief system really should be changing towards taking care of each other. That's what it's about. It's not saying, you can look through all the history of time and look at how people have used religion to kill other people. Military training, I think that there's a lot of benefit to it. I know it benefited me. When I was 17 years old, it gave me direction. It gave me a sense of purpose.
Thank you.
For a while, it was. I believed in compulsory service because I felt like it would enhance esprit de corps for the country. I don't know that I necessarily believe that now. However, I do think that it promotes nationalism, and I don't know that I think that that's a bad thing if it's tempered and it's done in an educated form. I'm at a point now that. I wonder. I question the intelligence of our species.
Brilliant comment, David. Thank you. Really appreciate this. And that is a problem with, God. I come from a culture where it's very difficult to take people on face value because we are very political. Not political in terms of politics, but we don't say it as it is, as a people. And Dennis was in a personal situation, and I actually intervened. And I apologized for the intervention. I said, you know what, dude? Just do a double check. You may be getting conned by somebody from my background, similar background. And he's like, no, man, this is what he's saying, so he must be right. And I'm like, dude, no, the math it's not technically doesn't sound right. Do a double check. But for him, it was difficult to understand. You guys take things on face value. And a lot of other countries also do. I had this bizarre conversation with some Singaporeans once. I think I told this story in one of our shows. That dinner conversation, it was boring. I tried to make conversation. In Singapore, you have to own a permit to have a car, but permit is more expensive than the car. So I said, hey, if you can just buy a car in Malaysia and drive in, can you go? Yeah, you sure you can. I said, but why don't you do that? And he says, but why would you do that? It's illegal. I'm like, yeah, but did they check? He goes, no. I said, can they check? He goes, no. I said, why don't you do it? And he's like, because it's illegal. I'm like, dude, just go buy a car, bring it in. He goes, And after about this, and we were just kidding, just messing around, killing time. And after about 10 minutes, this guy says, but FQ, why would we do that? Why wouldn't we just buy the permit? I said, because, if you have a $100,000 car, you have a permit which is $150,000. Why would you do that? And he goes, because it's the law. So, some countries are, and that's why I love the military training of Singapore. Some countries or some nations are good at staying in that line and taking, so there you can take things face value.
Yeah.
But you know what? In my experience, 90% of humanity cannot be taken at face value. You have to fucking double guess people.
Here's my comments on that, and I understand where you're coming from, FQ. I think for me, it's easier for me to take things at face value, because you know what? If somebody's lying to me, that's them lying. So things happen. For me, it's an easier existence. It's a much more pleasurable existence. And as far when we constantly think that somebody's trying to get one over on us, man, now we're really getting paranoid, and we're seeing the world in a much different way. And I just want to say, there's some of the people on here that are making comments. They're police officers here in this country, and so I just want to say, this, there's a lot of great police officers. As far as my comments, listen, I've been very open about it. Working alongside police officers for 25 years, there was a rivalry there. We didn't always get along. I mean, and what we did is we would get together once or twice a year and have police versus firefighter hockey games or football games, and we would all take sides and beat the crap out of each other, and then we'd go back to doing business. So I think what happens is that we end up getting seen, we get seen a very small percentage and segment of the population. I personally don't know anybody that has participated in a riot. So,
thank God for that, mate. I mean, nor have I.
And it's the only thing I can say about that is I told April the other day, I'm like, you're a terrorist of sorts, and she goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you stole my heart.
You cheesy man. You cheesy man.
I do think that military service.
But did she buy that? Did she buy that?
Come on, man. She's way too smart for that shit. So of
there
course
you
not.
Go.
So as far to military service, I think it has a lot of value. I think it has a lot of value because then you understand it. Listen, when I was in the military, I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice as to who I bunked with. I didn't have a choice as to who I shared a tent with. So you make it work.
Welcome to reality.
Welcome to reality. And so really it caused me to take some of my, and again, I was 17, so there wasn't a lot solidified in my brain at that time anyway. So, but it set me up for success in that, I just didn't understand why people disliked each other so much. But I also grew up around military bases. So, I saw intercultural marriages and families and so forth all the time. So it was very difficult for me to understand, and it still is, why we don't treat each other as brothers and sisters. And, at one point, we all wore a same uniform. We all wore the same uniform, and so now we get out and all of a sudden we're at odds with each other, and that makes me sad. David, hook, line, and sinker,
Nearing the close of this, Dave, you have to see, this is the right one from Dave, man. David, I don't know if you know, but April and Dennis have been doing a series of shows on relationships, and if you watch that, you'll understand who wears the pants in the house. So Dennis is not going to screw up that one. Dennis is not going.
Absolutely not. No, for sure not.
Let's take a couple of comments and then say goodnight. There was this comment here by Omar. I had to unlearn this political thing and how I was raised, and then learn to just be straightforward and learn this. So you see, Omar is from my part of the world, and he understands what I'm saying. FQ, I didn't know that you have such an enlightened mind. I only watch your sarcastic videos in Urdu. Well, I love you too, darling. But the thing is, you speak to the audience. This is a completely different audience. Oh God, Dennis, we have a problem, man.
I have a feeling that Rafia was she was just fighting for her right to party.
Yeah. And I bet you she was running her mouth and bad-mouthing everyone.
Well, at least using
Yeah,
some
they-
colorful
yeah.
language as we've gotten to know from Rafia, right?
Yeah. Dave, thank you very much, man. Thank you for
Thank
being
you, Dave.
here.
Appreciate it, David.
And
Thank you.
on that note, let's hope that the rioting and the looting in the U.S. stops. In fact, in the whole world. And please come together, because you know what? While we're busy fucking each other, the universe has decided to bugger the shit out of us, man.
Absolutely.
So, for God's sake, get shit together. Dennis,
Right on.
good night, guys.
See ya. Thank you.